Welcome to the Lawless Astrology channel. My name is Dabney, and I'm excited to welcome back Anne Ortelee. She is one of my mentors and teachers. She's an amazing astrologer. She's a legend in the field. And you all were so excited when she came on last time that she agreed to come on more
Back.
regularly. Yay, Anne.
Yay! Dabney and I are
So
going to hang out every month, which I think sounds like a lot of fun. So we're going to be
I
having
think
fun.
so too. So
We're
thank
going to
you.
be jamming about astrology with our coffee.
With our coffee. So
Coffee.
everyone grab your coffee,
And
settle
my coffee says, oh, there it says chaos coordinator.
in.
That's what
Perfect.
astrologers do. We coordinate the chaos. It's good.
Oh my God, that might be the name of the Chaos Coordinated, might be the name of our podcast today. We'll see. We'll see. There's a lot going on.
Mhm.
I just want to briefly let everybody know that Anne is back for the weekly weather.
Yeah.
So, for those of you that have missed it, she's officially back. So, check out her YouTube page.
Yeah.
And for those of us that couldn't wait for that, we subscribed to her Patreon. I'm a personal subscriber. I have been for a couple years now, and she does like this cute little daily horoscope that just gets you ready. And she tells her stories. So if you love her style, I highly encourage you to check all that out. Today, what we're going to be talking about
And you
is
get a theme song for the day.
you do. You do. She sends you a song. She sends you all of the aspects with the times. It's very, very comprehensive. I don't know where she gets the energy for all this because I do not have that much energy. So she does it for me.
Mars out of bounds in Capricorn. On,
Okay, that's what
on
it
my
is.
note of fate, I have to do it. I have to do it. Yeah.
Okay, that's what it is. So she is available for readings as well, but I believe that it's probably a little bit of a wait list.
Yeah, about a month and a half out. Yeah.
Not bad.
But it's
Not bad.
also, I mean, the whole idea of the heavens, they talk to us and they say, hey, this is what's going on. And then you learn to watch for it in the world and you learn to watch for it in your life. And you can't stop the events, but you can choose how you react to them. And that's basically, to me, the gift of astrology. Like this is coming. There's a snowstorm on the East Coast right now. And, it's a snowstorm. School's off in New York, ice storm in Charlotte. Okay, how are you gonna react? You're gonna get in bread, you're gonna get in milk, you're gonna know the kids are gonna be home bouncing off the walls because they're not going to school. And what do you need to do for your self-care? So it's all good. Using
Yep.
astrology as a tool to navigate the world. That's my goal as an astrologer, and definitely Dabney's with her Lawless podcasts.
Thank you. And so, yes, that is a perfect intro for me to just quickly plug the fact that I have a transits class too. So, everything we're going to be talking about right now, you really should know where it's happening in your own chart. February is going to be one of the most dramatic, uh,
Dramatic
yeah, and one of the most dramatic months of the year
and traumatic.
and traumatic for some
And
people.
well, it's big. It's like planets are in a sign they haven't been in 165 years. So we have no idea how to live in those energies, right? Because it's Neptune went into Aries. The last time he was there was 1860s during the Civil War. And
Huge.
going into Aries, the last time he was there was 97. So you might, if you're old enough, you've lived through that. But that's a lot of juicy energy that is really reshaping, and it's all going from earth and water into fire and air, which if you think of earth and water, the lake and the land, it's solid, reliable, dependable. Fire and air, well, what kind of fire, what kind of air? Big wind gusts, little breezes, but also fire spreads quickly. And so that idea of fire out of control, how do we contain the fire? How do we contain the vision? There's a famous astrologer, Carolyn Casey, who I love her work. She wrote a great book called Making the Gods Work for You. And it's hard to find in paperback or book now, but it's on Sounds True. And she says Neptune, which is going into fire today, lays the track for Saturn reality to come in. So we're all laying the new vision, the new dream, the new imagination for the reality we're going to construct. Get ready over the next 38 years. It's a big, big month because these guys haven't met. They meet every 38 years. Yeah.
So that sets the stage very well that yes, today, the 26th, Neptune is officially in Aries.
Oh,
This is the 26th of January. It is not going back for the duration. There's no more retrograde. So we are officially in Neptune in Aries. Bye bye, Neptune in Pisces. In some ways, good riddance. However, there's going to be each sign builds on the one before. And Pisces is the end of the zodiac. So Aries is a fresh new beginning. So, and do we want to just start with that as
yes.
kind of the intro to the month?
Yeah. And then Saturn is going to go into Aries to this month also. And he does that on the 6th, I believe, and the 6th of February. So we're kind of really talking February here. And then the two of them get married on February 20th.
So
So
we'll
when,
pull that chart up in a little bit.
yeah,
Will you talk about some of the things that you expect with Neptune going into Aries?
well, the last time it did was Fort Sumter got fired on, literally that day. You know, the Star Spangled Banner, oh say, can you see, by the dawn's early light. That was the shot that started the Civil War.
Okay.
In addition to Neptune going Aries, we're having Mars and Pluto meeting up. And so, are there any shots that might be starting the Civil War in the United States or around the world? The last time Neptune was in Aries also was the Crimean War, which is Ukraine. So, it was 165 years ago. Neptune also is film and photography. So, the Crimean War and the Civil War were the first wars that were photographed. So, we see a lot of things about people photographing things right now, filming
Mhm.
things, recording things for people to see, and people realizing, hey, if you record that, that's maybe not a good thing for me because I'm being recorded. So we have a reaction now to that. I know when you take a picture of me, you've got my story on it. So we have this fire energy, very passionate fire energy that we're going to be working with. And of course, fire is it's Aries, so it's direct, it's straightforward, it's a match. There's three different kinds of fire signs. Aries are matches, Leos are fireplace fires, fixed, and Sagittarians are candle fires. The candles like you light and you can pass the light. So we're going into 14 years, because Neptune's going to be in Aries for 14 years of matches. Now, if you've ever sat in a dark room and lit a match, you understand it breaks the light. But also back in World War II, they would say three on a match is unlucky because it gave the time for the sniper to find you and shoot you. Because you lit your cigarette, and your cigarette, there's a little light and the sniper can focus. So it's a very focused, very intense, very fiery energy. And it asks all of us to look at what our vision is for the next 14 years. Now, when he marries Saturn, what that means is the two of them have to get married again. So they're going to go together. They're going to run around the zodiac for 38 years before they get married again. So that's this cycle starts a 38-year cycle. It finishes up the cycle. We had an 88, 89 when out of nowhere, the Berlin Wall fell. Poof. I mean, President Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Didn't happen then, but poof, it went, collapsed. Europe got together, reunited. USSR broke up into little pieces. Also, that was when Tiananmen Square happened with the guy with the tanks. And that one didn't go anywhere. You know, the tanks kind of took out the guy. But Europe completely re-evolved into a new energy. Time before that was in the 1950s, Civil War, or not Civil War, Cold War. Time before that was zero, like this one is. Zero is what's called a world axis, means the whole world's in on it. That was in 1914, which was the World Wars, but it also was the Spanish flu. So we're going to have another pandemic, and we may have war if we're not paying attention to cooling jets. And we just do the vision for the reality train to land, but we say we don't really need a war. What we need is illumination. We need to light the darkness. So that's our job, is to say, how are you going to light your own darkness and build structures around the next 38 years in your life? So it's big. You can talk more. I know they yelled at you about interrupting me, but I'm totally good if you interrupt me. Because
Okay.
you know what happens then? I get going on. Blah, blah,
Okay.
blah, blah. Yeah. So
All
ask
right. So
my
once
question.
again, the theme of I am going to have to interrupt Anne every once in a while,
Because
but
I'm
that's
long
part of
way.
our dynamic.
I have a Mercury square Mars, so I get going, and Dabney's nodding and smiling. So I'm going, all right, that's good. But then I can tell she wants to ask me questions. So
Well, I do want to ask a
we're gonna.
question.
I'm encouraging Dabney to interrupt me, so none of you complain to her that she's interrupting me.
Did you hear that, everyone? Okay. So somebody
No
just,
picking on Dabney. She's my friend.
that's right. Anne's my mentor, and she says I'm not being rude. So you
Right.
don't have to think I'm being rude. Okay. So a couple quick questions. So we've had these two matches, these two sparks, obviously, with Renee Good and now Preddy, which, by the way, that is really their last names was pointed out to me how symbolic. Even pretty is a derivative of pretty, things that are pleasing and good, that are being destroyed. So here, two very iconic incidences that they are saying they're
Murders. We're gonna say the truth here. Murders. Two
two
murders.
murders that and so the delusion, the like, you see what you see but you're being told that's not reality, right? So that's a little bit of Neptune and Pisces, but we have Neptune and Aries now, and we have this energy of them saying, well, if you're filming, you're a domestic terrorist. That is very Neptune and Aries too, right? The filming, and then, you're being told you're a terrorist, right? So this is kind of this interesting energy that's coming to the fore. How do you think this is going to play out in the sense that it is escalating? However, it's becoming less and less popular. So we're not in a place where it's still 50%, 50-50, or, the people that are engaged enough to vote 50-50. This is very unpopular. People are not happy about what's happening. The hypocrisy is being exposed. How does that turn into a potential civil war?
Or a vision of how we want to proceed. So we know war is part of it because Aries is war, right? And Aries is soldiers.
Right.
We know that's a component of it, but also it's the vision. Why are we fighting for what are we fighting for? Right? We're going to fight about something. So when we had the Civil War, we said, Dred Scott Agreement came down and it said you died in a slave state, so you're going to be kept enslaved, even though your owner said he was going to let you free when he died. The wife said no. So he got to stay a slave. And that agreement really started the abolition movement because we were like halfway through the country to basically the Mississippi. And what's going to happen with the rest of the country? Slave and free, slave and free, the mix. And so we went to war with the vision of what we thought should happen. Both sides had visions. And then we fought that war, and it was pretty bloody. Go watch Ken Burns' Civil War documentary. And the North won. The slaves were set free. They were given right to vote. They were given the 14th Amendment citizenship because they were owned. I mean, I don't really think you can own people, but they were owned before. So now they were like, no, you're a citizen. You were born here. And we're having noise about turning that over too. So I think the thing to remember is, and this is where I get a lot of hope, like 70 million people voted for each side, a little over 70 million, not like a huge amount. 63 million registered voters did not vote. 90 million people that are eligible to vote did not vote. Of the 90 million, 63 were registered. So what's happening with these events that are getting filmed is it's getting the people that don't normally pay attention to politics riled up
Yeah.
because they're going, what the hell's going on here? And so you see in Minnesota, there was the angry guy, the guy that came out and was swearing, like, I want to sit on my couch, but I don't like these people. Ah, da, da. And he got interviewed, he did the angry video because I have to go out here and protest, and I could be sitting, I have to go to work. I'm not getting paid to protest. It was a very funny video, but it was the angry guy. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. Aren't you fun? But it also, those people that normally are like, whatever, I don't care, I got my life, my that, they're paying attention now, which is not a good sign when they're getting provoked and angered, right? And so that piece, we're gonna watch that part grow as these things get videoed, and actually more important than ever to video them, post them, have them be out in the world, have people see what's going on. Because basically, and this is my belief system, humans are good people, good and kind people. And the pretty guy that got killed went to help a woman that got pushed by an ICE agent. He was being gallant, which is Aries. Aries is the Knights of the Round Table. Let me
Yeah.
lay my coat across the lake, across the puddle, so you don't get your shoes dirty. Let's all, fight for truth and justice. So he was helping, and he got shot 10 times. He got murdered, pepper sprayed, murdered, thrown on the ground, beaten up by a bunch of thugs, and killed. Sorry, that's what happened. And you look at the video, and then you hear the distortion coming from the power, Saturn and Pisces' power. They're saying, don't believe what you see on the videotape, which if you read
Right.
1984 at the end of the book, the guy says, so how many fingers am I holding up? And the guy says 3. He goes, no, I'm holding up however many I tell you that I'm holding up. I'm holding up 4 fingers. So tell me it's 4 fingers. And the guy goes, you're holding up 4 fingers. So we have to speak truth, reality. We have to light that match and say murdered. It's an incident, yes, but I'm going, yeah, it's a murder fucking. You watch people get shot. Same way we did with George Floyd. And that kind of stuff, Rodney King beating, unfortunately, we need this. The kid that got mangled, the little boy that got mangled because he went to visit his relatives, I'm blanking on his name. And his mother said, no, let him see what they did to him. And they posted the picture of that kid all over the world. They took a picture of him in his coffin in Chicago. I don't remember the name. I apologize. But yeah, those things get us whoa, and we react. So that's where pictures are worth 1,000 words. So
Yeah. And Aries is very visceral.
yes.
Aries is a cardinal sign and it is about action. And so we are entering a very new energy, a very new time. So what we have been dealing with, the good and the bad of the Piscean energy that we've been through, is going to shift, and that we're going to get the good and the bad of the Aries energy now. So we've got this kind of dream, we've got this imagination, we've got this vision of Aries, which on the high side can be chivalry and being brave and loyal and standing up for what you believe in and making changes and actually getting things done. The shadow side is the bully. It is the violence. It is the glamorization of war. The Civil War, they all were like packing picnic lunches thinking it would be fun to watch this. There were spectators. People were cheering the war coming, right? But that was back when Neptune was in Pisces. And you see, people calling for civil war on social media, which is also very delusional because they don't understand what's coming. And what we've seen recently is things have already begun to be laid bare as this Aryan energy is coming in. What we saw at Davos last week was the complete unstripping of like what's been going on, where it was like, okay, now Europe and Canada and our allies have realized they need to just move on. Like this isn't changing, so they're going to now do their own thing. Everything was laid out for anybody that is willing to see what's happening. It's there. And so now it's about what's going to happen next. And we're about to find out, I think. And so let's talk about Saturn now going into Aries and how that's a little bit of a different energy. And do you feel like that's going to be a check on that Neptune in Aries? Or do you feel like it's the authority crackdown?
I think it's
Because
the authority
either.
crackdown. Yeah.
You think it's
Well, I'm going to go back to Davos because Davos was our friends and relatives and countries we used to work with for 80 years because Uranus went into Gemini 84 years ago, which it will do in April. So tune in for April for our show then.
that's going to
Uh,
be a big one too.
that's going to be a big one. So Uranus went into Gemini in July of 41, which is when basically World War II broke out. So when they go, we've been friends for 80 years, I go, no, 84. It was also Uranus was in Gemini, brother against brother, Gemini's brothers breaking apart, and that was the Civil War. And it also was the Revolutionary War, Uranus breaking apart from the king and the Wachahuzzi, the French Revolution, chop off the heads of the rich people. So if I was a billionaire, I'd be worried. We also had the Pluto return, which was the American Revolution. But before that was the Protestant Reformation. And that was when the English and French got together against the church, because what they were doing was saying, hey, go ahead and sin, give us money, and we'll sell you an indulgence. And are we having that going on right now? So the pattern,
Prosperity gospel, anybody?
but also, go ahead and be a bad person, mail me a few $1,000,000 and I'll pardon you, right? So the patterns repeat. This is where astrology is so much fun, because it's got this history built into it. Back in the 1850s, 60s rather, was Pope Leo the First. And he was a socialist pope for the workers. He wanted to help the workers that were poor in the world. And so now we have Pope Leo the Second, who is, of course, a socialist pope wanting to help the workers, calling out, people. But when we look at Europe, now remember, I posted this somewhere and they got mad at me. We do not have a written history, because the original people, the indigenous people, did not record history. It was a verbal tradition. So somebody said, there was history here. I'm like, yeah, there was history here, but Europe has a recorded history. So they know what goes on. So I say to people in Europe, we're like a 19-year-old kid with a girlfriend in the car, no condoms, a bottle of liquor, and a gun. And that is what we are going through. We have a lot of drugs. We have we're going to make you carry that baby bitty if you get pregnant. We got a lot of guns and booze in the world, pot, drugs and alcohol. So we're like a 19-year-old crazy person. And we know that. And my friend Carol actually said, she tells people this. She lives in Amsterdam. She says, this is who we are. You guys have a history. You got, the Roman Empire, the Charlemagne, you got the wars, you've been through it. You're like smart enough to go, you don't want to do this. But when you have a 19-year-old teenage boy that's completely out of control, this is what we're living through. So what do you do as a parent, right? Take away the car keys, tell them to get, there's all sorts of stuff we can do, but that's the energy we're working with the United States right now.
Yeah, and that's I did a video, I didn't put it up because I just decided I didn't want to, and I was talking to you, so I thought maybe I'd talk a little bit about it with you. It feels like Davos was kind of like a narcissistic collapse. There was sort of this vulnerability that was exposed, and now that we've been exposed, and I say we, I do not mean those of us watching this channel. I'm talking about, cosmically what's happening in the US with the Pluto return
Well,
and things like
letting
that.
everything be seen. Yeah.
Right. And now we're entering the backlash of the collapse, where there's just this anger and flailing because we no longer have control. And that's the thing, that it can be some of the most dangerous times when you're dealing with narcissism. And
Or you're dealing with an abuse, if any of you've been in an abusive relationship, when you say, I'm going to leave,
right.
that's when you're in danger. When you're putting up with it, when you're going, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. You made me hurt you. And then they apologize, and then they hurt you again. When you get to the point where you go done, and how many of you have a done in your life right now?
Right.
Because Saturn and Neptune is saying to you, there's something in your life, wherever that last degree of Pisces is, 29, that's saying you're done now. You do not want to do this anymore. And planets compel us, they don't impel us, but they compel us to look at things and see things, and we all have to change. So think about where you've been a little bit of a laggard and you haven't been changing, or where the person in your life's driving you crazy and you're like, I just need to stop hanging out with them. But then they write you, they text you, they do, and you go right back in. So
Mhm.
also Saturn is a lot about boundaries and setting frames. So to Dabney's point, what is the structure that is collapsing? Because Saturn is structured, Neptune is dissolving also. So we have the new one coming in. What's the new vision for the reality train to ride on that Carolyn Casey talks about? But we also have Saturn and Neptune meeting an ending, and like sand on a beach, because it's a mutable sign. They're all, it's all falling away. Think of, you built a sand castle, the water comes in, takes it away, just the edges, and then it comes in again and it takes the lump. And then after 4 tides or so, the sand again. That's what we're having. So out of the destruction and the dissolution, we have to have a vision of what we want to build. And that's the important part. So the people, the 63 million people that didn't vote, the 90 million that are eligible that didn't vote, clearly, 70 million of us on either side voted. But those people, we need to hear from them because they're gonna actually determine what we're doing as a country.
And I think Saturn in Aries will bring in new, younger leaders, which is what we need right now, too.
Yeah.
Um,
Pisces is the old, remember the New Year's Eve thing? Pisces, the old man leaving and the baby coming in. Saturn is baby energy, and it's or Aries is baby energy,
Aries.
and it's my astrology teacher John Marcusella. It's meat, mattress, and malt. Right? That's Aries is basic, very basic. They don't apologize. They know what they like. They make a plan. They go do it. You're dealing with a depressed Aries if they don't have a plan, and they have a vision. So you need to have a vision in your zero Aries house, wherever zero Aries is in your chart.
Okay, so that brings me to something that I want to just quickly mention is that, again, I do have a transits class, and we have a new sponsor on this channel, which is called Astrotheros. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later. But that is so important that you know where Saturn and Neptune are going to conjunct in your chart because around mid-February, everything is going to really be lit up. Like we feel like we've been in dramatic times already. You ain't seen nothing yet. So when it gets that crazy, what I think, and I would love Anne's take on this as well, is we actually do have to do our own work. Like, because the reality is this train is taken off. This is cosmic. What I was saying in another kind of lecture I did was like all the gods are on Mount Olympus and they're doing their thing. And us little people down here, we don't have a lot of control over the bigger trajectory that we're on right now. We are being swept in a big tsunami or, firestorm, whatever you want to call it. The only thing we can do is focus on ourselves and knowing where Neptune in Aries is in your what house it's in your personal chart is going to give you so much information. So you can check out Astrotheros where it's there, and I'll tell you more about that. And also check out my transits class because we're going to do a whole live about where it is in your house and which house and what that means and how you can draw better boundaries for yourself, how you can take care of yourself. So, and do we want to kind of say that like right now, until we get to the eclipse, how we take care of ourselves is like, I know you're remodeling your house. So it's kind of, so talk a little bit about like, let's talk about just the beginning of February, big picture, what
Right.
people individually can do. And then let's look at the eclipse. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Let's do each house. First house, what
Okay.
are you going to do? Second house, what the heck's going on with your money and your values and your what's important to you? What's your value? What do you value? Third house, how do you think? How do you communicate? What's going on with your siblings and your neighbors? Fourth house, home, family, mom, your own family, your own house. Fifth house, your children, your creativity, your artistic ability, your passions. Sixth house, your work, your health, your pets, your coworkers. Seventh house, the people that you work with face to face that you like, your open enemies, the people that you're in a face to face relationship with that you create. Eighth house, how are you valued by other people? What's going on with your money, your talents, your skills? What's going on with your inheritances, your money from other people? Ninth house, legal matters, education, travel, philosophy beliefs. What are those? 10th house, what is your career? But more importantly, what's your calling? Because the sixth house is your work, the 10th house is your calling, your vocation, and purpose on earth. Where are you going? What's going on with your father? What's going on with your boss? What's going on with your career? Have you reached a pinnacle? 11th house, what's going on with your groups, your communities, your friends, but not your like besties, your community that you create. What are your hopes and dreams? 12th house, what is dissolving and going away, never to be seen again? What's going on in your mental health? What's going on in your spiritual health? What's going on in your understanding of why you work and live on Earth? So you go, depending on where that Saturn Neptune is, that's where the new 38-year cycle is starting. And the one that's leaving is wherever 22 Capricorn was, because that cycle's done.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, this is a good time to pause, and I'm just going to have
Here
a
you're
quick
at.
word about our sponsor, Astrotheros, and then let's talk about the eclipse
Yep.
before we look at the Saturn Neptune conjunction in the US and what we see there. So just give me 1 second to
Yep.
tell you a little bit
Yep.
about
Really
Astrotheros.
good. She is a sponsor. This is very exciting. Her
Thank
podcast is growing.
you.
Saturn and Neptune in the third. Someone came to her and said, "Can I sponsor you?" And she said, "Okay." But as she said to me, I can't read the script. Saturn Neptune. I got to say my words. So these are Dabney's words about her sponsor.
Yes, so now go listen to me. I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Astrotheros. Astrotheros is a cloud-based astrology software that's available on your desktop, tablet, as well as your phone. This is a real game changer, especially for people like myself. I have historically had a different astrology software on my tablet, on my phone, and on my desktop. So if I'm out with friends and they ask me to pull up their chart, but originally I'd entered it on my desktop, it makes it a lot harder on the go. So this is something, because it's cloud-based, it's all in sync. You just need Astrotheros. What I love about Astrotheros personally is that it is a very clean design and it's very intuitive. It's easy to figure out. You don't need some big instruction manual or tutorials to help you figure out how to pull up a simple chart. As an evolutionary astrologer, that's all I often need. I like the big picture. But if you are a professional astrologer that is into more traditional techniques, they have zodiacal releasing. They have all different house systems. You can add in asteroids. And if you're a fan of Anne Ortelee, which I know you are because you're watching this, they also just introduced the fixed stars. So they have everything that you could need, and they're updating it all the time. So I have just been really impressed with Astrotheros because I do think it's wonderful for beginners as well as seasoned professionals alike. And it's kind of the only program that you need. And until March 15th, if you use the code LAWLESS, like the Lawless Astrology channel, LAWLESS, you will get a free month of Astrotheros to check it out. If you would like to get a full year, which is already discounted, you will get 2 free months. I want to thank Astrotheros for sponsoring this channel and know that if you are supporting Astrotheros, you're supporting me. Yeah, this is Astrotheros. So let's look at this and see, like, it's very simple to read. Let's look at the February eclipse. Take it away, Anne.
Okay, so what eclipses do is they happen. You don't have the note of fate on in it. Oh, you do. There it is. Okay. What eclipses do is whenever the sun and the moon are within 15 degrees of the node of fate. So you can see the node of fate there at 8 Pisces in the first house. It's the little, it looks like the little headphones. And then the Saturn Neptune or the sun moon is at 28 Aquarius. So 2 plus 8 is 10. So we're within orb. So the eclipse is taking place in our first house in the chart cast for Washington, D.C. It's taking place at 28, wherever 28 Aquarius is in your chart. We had this energy again 19 years ago in February of 2007. We had the energy in February of 2000 or of 1988. So think about 88. Well, that's when the Berlin Wall collapsed. Right, that was the eclipse precluding it. So we look at it, we see Saturn and Neptune are getting ready to join. They haven't quite met yet. Saturn's at 0, but they're both in Aries, and Neptune is at 38. So then you look at where the Aquarius falls, that 28 Aquarius falls. So in my case, falls in my first house, and it falls opposite my Pluto because I have stuff at 28, and it also is going to be squaring my progressed sun. So I know it's a T square for me, action oriented, get things accomplished, and the energy shoots into Taurus in my third house of ideas and siblings and communication. So here I'm doing a new thing with Dabney, and I'm also doing the weekly weather, and I'm going to be, offering some classes. So there's a lot of energy. You can see Uranus down there at the bottom at 27 Taurus, and it has an argument with the Saturn Neptune. There's not a square line turned on there though. So your Saturn and Uranus, the sun and moon in Aquarius square the Uranus in uh, Taurus. So that's a very volatile energy. Uranus Sun square. So like a day before the eclipse happens, the sun and the moon both square Uranus. Now, Uranus is partly why we've been having a lot of trouble. Chaos. Uranus is the planet of chaos. And right now he's on the fixed star Algol, which is the star of beheading in the in mythology. Athena came into her temple and saw Neptune and Medusa having sex. Actually, Neptune was raping Medusa. And she went boom, lightning bolt, turned Medusa into a snake-headed woman. She wandered the world to turn men into stone when they looked upon her. And so Athena sent Perseus to kill Athena or kill Medusa with her sword and her shield, and said, look in the shield, cut her head off, bring her head back to me, which is what he did. He climbed the hill, and there's all these stone guys all along, cut off Medusa's head, put it in a bag, and brought it back. So in the sky, in the constellation of Perseus, there's the blinking eye of Medusa, which blinks every, I think, 63 hours or 64 hours, something like that. So she's up there blinking her eye away. And he brought the head back to Athena, and Athena put the head on her shield, the Medusa head. And oh, so did Gianni Versace. And of course, he got his head blown off by that guy. This is a very potent imagery. So it's a lot about beheading and a lot about taking things out. And Athena put Medusa on her shield to remember not to act out of anger, but to act out of strategy. Because she normally was very strategic, but when she saw this shit going down in her temple, she was not into it. So we have this energy of beheading in this eclipse. And so if you think about 88, 89, the Berlin Wall fell, the governments got beheaded, right? And we go back to you go back to 2007 and what was going on with you then, because you had this eclipse energy was in the same position, because every 19 years it repeats. So think of February of 2007 to give you a theme of what's coming. And then you get to work with, okay, how am I going to work with this energy? So it's very potent. You can see the planets are in a lot of duets, meaning they're hanging out together. So we have the Venus and the node and the Mercury hanging out near the node. We have Saturn and Neptune in a duet. We have the sun and moon in a duet. And the sun and moon are squaring Uranus. So there's like a little combo there. And we also see little Jupiter over there, retrograde in Cancer, and he's working happily with the node and with Mercury. So a lot of communication energy and a lot of unexpected changes. Eclipses mean to leave or to rise up, eclipsen. So people leave on eclipses, they disappear, they go, they're beheaded, they're thrown from power. So we're going to watch for that in the world. We know we have Iran going on a little crazy over there. We're going to watch for leaders to be beheaded, basically. And then they also rise up. So you're the Broadway understudy and the star breaks her leg and you get to go on stage and you're now the ingenue. So you can rise up on eclipses. You can also be taken into, kind of drop down. So they're very important. They're very intense. This particular eclipse is in very strong places in the chart in the United States and in Donald Trump's chart. But it also is, for all of us, it's a new era, a new idea. And that 28 degrees is the last degree of the sign. So since September, all the new moons have been at 28, 29, saying done with that, done with Virgo stuff, done with Libra stuff, done with Scorpio stuff, done with Sag stuff, done with Capricorn stuff, now done with Aquarius stuff, done with Pisces stuff, done with Aries stuff. They're all at the last degrees, inviting us to release those houses and be done with things in them, because the new moons in the eclipse in September and the eclipse here are both saying you're done. Virgo is with the work, the service, how you take care of people. Aquarius with your group, your ideas, your vision. What are your hopes and dreams? Those hopes and dreams are over. Let's get some new hopes and dreams in. So that would be how I'd interpret it. How would you interpret it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've said it all. I think you've definitely, it is very potent.
Yeah.
I think just the incredible timing right before the Saturn Neptune conjunction, it's like a precluder.
Yep.
And I think what we should do now is you had mentioned Algol, which is, the fixed star. I didn't pull that up, but let's look at our current. Um,
Well, Uranus on Algol now. He's stationing on him this week.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
we got some beheading going on this week too.
here is this. Here is the chart of the eclipse with Donald Trump.
Hmm.
So this is complete. This is right opposite his Mars
And his ascendant.
and his ascendant. So what is your interpretation of that? It is in his sixth house of health.
Hmm.
So, we never predict any kind of death or dying, but we can say this could be definitely a
A
strain on
health,
his health
a
for
health issue. Yeah.
yeah. Is there anything else that you'd want to call
Well,
out before?
he had, and remember on the eclipse that we had on the 7th of September, Labor Day weekend, everybody was like, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? And, I'm not a medical person, but I am raised in a medical family and I do a lot of medical astrology. And Donald was born on a full moon eclipse. You can see the sun and the moon. He's born on that sun in Gemini with Uranus up there and the moon in Sag on the bottom. And he looked like he had a stroke in over that on that eclipse. Now, what happened since the Kennedy assassination? They have a medical car follow the cars in the carpool and all that. And of course, he's going to get great medical care. But he was gone that weekend, and he had that droopy face, and then he has been having a lot of trouble walking. So I think he had a stroke that weekend. That was also when uh, China held the meeting that Putin went to, India went to, South Korea went to, all the other guys went to the
Big
meeting.
dogs.
Donald didn't get to go. He stayed home and he was missing. So I'm going to be looking for a health event with him. The rising sign is how you come into the world. The setting, which is the seventh house, is how you leave the world. And that eclipse is sitting right in his sixth house of health, and it's right opposite his Mars and his ascendant. So, and we have a pretty good time with him before time to chart with him before he got into politics. He was a New York character. I used to teach him because he had 5 divorces or 5 kids and 3 wives and bankruptcies. I mean, he had a great chart. Like everything you could have go
Character.
wrong, he had done, right? So, or he'd had an experience. So you could really show, and this is a really good chart. We also see Uranus at the top of the chart. As I mentioned, Uranus is squaring the sun and the moon. So I would anticipate a health event with him. And notice Saturn and Neptune are in his eighth house in zero Aries. Now, one of the things that his chart has he also has the Venus Saturn in Cancer. It's getting the quincunx from the eclipse. So quincunxes are health aspects. So we're going to watch for a health aspect with the old boy. And we'll see what happens. It's kind of an interesting chart with Uranus on the midheaven. Uranus is chaos and change. And we know Donald has a Sun Uranus conjunction. So he's chaos. And he's born, you can see the Jupiter down there in the second house. His Jupiter trines the Uranus. And that is a stationary Jupiter. See the little S there. So he's born with a stopped Jupiter, which is why his chart is so lucky because it trines his sun Uranus. So I'm not predicting his demise, but I do think we'll have a big health event with him. And with Uranus on the midheaven and it's squaring the sun and the moon, there may be a replacement put in.
Yeah, and that's the thing I wanted to mention too is
Right.
the sun and moon in Aquarius. This is an Aquarian eclipse. The ruler of Aquarius is that Uranus.
On
So
the
that
midheaven.
makes right on his midheaven. So again, we have a marker of change, disruption, something coming in. And that and you can look in your own life where that Aquarian and Uranus correspondence is as well. And it can talk about where there's going to be a change in your life. And
Mhm.
that change for him is right on his midheaven in the 10th house of being a public figure and being the leader of this country. So, anything else before I pull up the US interaction with this eclipse?
Well, I think it's important to look at his moon in, he's what we also look for with charts is we look for what are called natal excitations. So he's born in an eclipse. This is an eclipse. He's born with Sun Uranus. This chart has a Sun Uranus aspect. So we see a lot of excitation in his chart around, his chart's going to be very excited regardless with this eclipse. It's going to go a little wild. He also has Venus. He has a Venus Saturn conjunction in Cancer, which is why he's sensitive to criticism. And when we look at the Venus in the eclipse chart, it's hanging out with the node of fate. And Saturn, of course, is in zero. So they're in what's called a semi-sextile, which is an kind of like I'm a little disagreeing with you about how we're going to do this. And the Venus in Pisces trines his Mercury in Cancer. And we see the Venus, it's a little wide, but the Venus is on the North Node and the Mercury is near the North Node. So we know he has a natal conversation in his chart. And this eclipse has a natal conversation with Venus and Mercury too. So it's a pretty intense time for him. So we'll see what happens. But it also volatility, because Uranus on the midheaven is volatile. And if we think of mythology, Uranus, Lynn Bell said this at an Omega conference I was at. Uranus was relentless in the myth, and he was just crazy. He would jump his wife all the time. She'd get babies. He'd take the babies and he'd eat them. And one day she was tired of it. So the last baby she had a rock and she wrapped it in a blanket and gave it to him. And that baby was Saturn, and she sent Saturn off to be raised by somebody else. So Saturn comes back, punches his father in the stomach, out pop all his siblings, Pluto, Neptune, the girls that got eaten. They're all alive because they're immortal. And then there's a battle, Uranus with the Titans and the siblings fighting. And they cut off Uranus's balls, castrate him, and they throw the balls into the ocean, and out pops Aphrodite on the sea foam. Out pops beauty and love. So that's the mythology that Donald Trump lives with. He's got a Sun Uranus. So he's got this chaos and he fights people and he eats them. And then, someone's going to come along and punch him in the stomach and he's going to vomit everything up and he's going to get his balls cut off. So I'm looking at, and I'm not saying I'm doing it. I'm just saying he lives this mythology. So the energy of chaos, and there was a New York Times headline, 2025, the year of chaos. And I'm like, well, he's a chaos agent, Sun Uranus. Uranus is a chaos energy. So we know Uranus is at the top of the chart, for this eclipse. So we'll see what the chaos is that comes in. And remember, we all are going to have chaos too, because we're all going to have that moon Uranus square. So the eclipse squaring Uranus. So we're all going to have chaos. So you want to watch where the chaos is in your life. Mythology is very important when you're reading astrology charts. Know your mythology. You got an aspect to Nemesis, you got an aspect to Icarus. What are your father issues? So you want to kind of, how do you undermine yourself? So the whole idea of looking at your asteroids can also tell you a lot about who you are. So
Well, yes, that is absolutely true. I need to now go look at Icarus because I've got some serious father issues. Okay, so let's just quickly look at the US chart because to your point, I do believe that he is a chaos agent that was sent. He represents the US shadow. And I know, Anne, I just have to have an aside. We are going to get so many insane comments
I
on
know.
the video,
You probably should
especially
turn the comments off.
especially if it's as popular as the last one, like because then that's out in the wild. Oh my God, the comments I'm gonna get. So I'm
We'll
gonna
take we'll take the we'll take the viewership. We're going to turn the comments off. I thought,
well, no, I'm gonna leave them
should I
on.
warn her what I'm going to say with this? And I was like, all right. I mean, I say it on my own thing, and I don't leave the comments on because I don't want
You
to.
know I'm aligned. So, I'm just gonna put on my Aries battle wear and I'm gonna hide all the comments that drive me nuts. So, but he is a chaos agent
It's
that came in.
Dabney, it's actually a lot. You are too busy right now. It is actually Saturn and Neptune are in your third house. You can turn off the comments. You can turn them on
Then you don't get into the
later.
algorithm, man.
We don't need the praise. We just need to know that they're a little crazy out there, and I don't want to hear about it.
Okay, all right. Well,
If you're supporting the cruelty that is going on right now in Minnesota and around the country with ICE, you are either an idiot or you're somebody I don't even want to know.
yes, I certainly
It's
don't want you
all
commenting
about
on
the
my
cruelty. It's all
channel.
about the cruelty, and I do not like that. I used to beat up, my brother was gay, And people back then, we didn't call it gay. He was weird. And I used to beat up people that picked on my brother because I would have been shot like that petty kid was, the pretty kid got, because I would have gone and helped the lady. And those cruel people make me crazy. There was a podcast right before I got on here where this woman was recording, the guy's holding the gun in her face. Aren't you afraid now? Aren't you afraid now? She said, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. And I'm like, I'd be doing that too. And they'd probably shoot my face off. But I don't really care because these are bullies and they're cruel and you're supporting cruelty and bullies. They are not getting rid of illegal immigrants. They are shooting American citizens in the streets. This is not how we are to live. But anyway, I digress. So
No,
they
and
turn off the comments. Yeah, you want to hide them, but you're too busy to hide them. You got too much going on. Turn them on next month.
all right, maybe. All right, I'm going to think about that.
Uh-huh.
I'm listening. I'm hearing you
I
because
know,
it's
I know.
a
Yeah.
boundary that maybe I need to hear. Maybe I won't respond to as many as I normally do. But as a person with four planets in Cancer, the thing that broke my heart was the little 5-year-old
I
with his
know.
little bunny hat.
It was
So yeah, like really check yourselves if you're going to come back and try to defend what's happening. Recognize that the same people that are defending the Second Amendment and saying like, well, we have to have some people who get shot with all the gun violence in schools and everything is because we want to be able to defend ourselves against tyranny of the government. And yet somehow, someone in an open carry state, the hypocrisy is laid bare. Let's just put it that way.
that's Saturn
And
Neptune. Yeah. Mhm.
right. And that is a positive, I think, to, everyone is going to have to check themselves.
Yes.
And that doesn't just mean, this political party and that political party. I'm talking about people. And I've had to check myself and the places where I have said one thing and done something else. And I couldn't see it. And that's part of my Saturn Neptune journey, right? Has to do with over caregiving and all that stuff for me, but I digress. So let's talk about the US because I believe he is this chaos agent who has come in to lay bare the shadow of this United States. As Neptune is returning to its place of the US Constitution, we are seeing the hypocrisy, we're seeing the dissolving, we're seeing the disruption of the First and Second Amendment, which people are talking about. I thought that's what we were defending was First and Second Amendment. And now here you're saying something completely different. So what is this going to do to us collectively as the United States?
Well, the first, let's talk about the Sibley chart. So this was cast. Ben Franklin stopped in England on the way home after the American Revolution, and he gave this chart to a guy named Ebenezer Sibley, who was a British astrologer, and he published it. A lot of the founding fathers were Masons, which means they're good in astrology too. And Washington was laid out in the constellation of Virgo because the government's supposed to be of service to the people. And 9/11 was Virgo. 9/11 was the cornerstone for the Pentagon in 1941. Most of the founding buildings in the government in Washington are laid on a Virgo day with a Virgo ritual because the Masons were ritualistic. So if you look at the Mason Creed, which is be nice to others, help the children, be a good neighbor, work hard. There's a whole list of stuff. This chart actually mirrors it. On my website, I have how the US Sibley chart matches the description in the Masonic Creed. So we have all the planets in the West, Sun, Jupiter, Venus, and Mars. Mars is in Gemini, the Sun and the Venus and the Jupiter are and the Mercury are in Cancer. So they put Mars in a weak position in Gemini because Mars does not like being in Gemini. And they put him in the seventh house where he's also weakened because he's in the house of Libra. And then they made his ruler retrograde in Cancer. So the ruler retrograde in Cancer in the eighth house is our enemies will talk trash about us, or people will talk trash about us, but they actually can't do anything. You can see down there the moon in Aquarius in the third house. That's where we had the one industry represented in the Declaration of Independence and ultimately the Constitution was the right to free speech. Third house is free. Moon in Aquarius is we're right to free speech. We see the ascendant, the moon, and the sun right on the right to free speech. The moon is also the public, who the public is. And so the moon in any chart rules what the public does. So the public says, hey, I have the right to free speech. I don't have to like what you're saying. I don't even have to listen to you, but I have the right to say it, right? So that energy is there. And of course, Now it's in Aquarius, which is filming people, with technology. Don't take pictures of me. But back then in 1776, it wasn't there. Uranus was not discovered with this. Neptune at the ninth house was not discovered. Pluto was not discovered. They were not present. It was only the big seven in the sky when we had the Revolutionary War. But you see Saturn and Neptune are down there at the foundation of the Declaration of Independence. Fourth house is the foundation. And Saturn and Neptune are saying, I've been going through this third house and I've been dissolving your belief systems, your ideas. Third house is age 0 to 14. What you believe, what you say is your truth. I've been dissolving it. And Saturn and Neptune are in the fourth saying, now we're starting a new 38-year cycle about what you believe and why you believe it. And so that's really important because that's angular, right on that edge of the Declaration of Independence, and saying, so you say you believe in free speech, you allowing it? You say you believe in the right to protest, you allowing it? You say you believe in the right to carry arms? Moon is trying the Moon in Aquarius is trying the Mars, Second Amendment. You really believe that? And you notice Pluto over there in the second house. Of course, Pluto wasn't discovered when they wrote it, but it's on the south node. Second house, Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. Jupiter ruling the first house is in Cancer. I have the right to free speech. I have the right to protest and petition my government and say, I want you to leave. Jupiter's on the sun. The eclipse, Jupiter's on the sun. It's retrograde. So it's revising what we say, who we say we are, because we have to say, again, this is who I am. This is why I'm here. And so with the Jupiter goes direct in March, so that'll be when Jupiter kind of calms down. But you also see Uranus in the sixth house, which is the house of the citizens, Uranus and Taurus in the sixth house, about the citizens getting riled up. And you also see we're having our Chiron return. Chiron return in Aries is we have Chiron in Aries, which is Chiron is where our soul is, what our soul wants to do. And so our Chiron in Aries is we want to be able to do whatever we want in our own home, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we see Chiron there saying, what is our happiness? What is our liberty? So when someone says to you, I want to own you, you're kind of like, you're not going to own me. We settled that back 1860s. You're not owning me. But we also see the energy in the third house. We need to have conversations and dialogues, but this eclipse is triggering the public, triggering the people. And the moon and Uranus, the public in the United States is being triggered by the square from Uranus too. So we're going to see those people that the silent majority, as they used to be called when I was growing up, they're going to be piping up. And with Jupiter on our sun, Jupiter is going to retrograde back to our United States sun and activate that sun energy. And the sun is, what is it we hold dear? What are our beliefs? Sun is the co-ruler of the ninth house. What did we incarnate to say we were here for? Those opening sentences, go read, excuse me, your Declaration of Independence and see which of those things in there you still believe in, because that's what we're going to be talking about and what we're going to be visioning. Like I believe I should be able to say what I want. And then I also believe I don't have to listen to you tell me I'm wrong.
Pluto,
I turn off the comments.
yeah, Anne turns off her comments. So
I turn
I'm
off
going to
my
see how
comments.
it goes. I'll keep them on for a little bit and then maybe I'll turn them
Okay,
off.
now what do you see in the eclipse chart?
Well, so this to me, because I'm an evolutionary astrologer, I take a very big picture look at things. And I do see that Pluto, which, doesn't matter if it's the eclipse or not, Pluto is within 2 degrees of the south node of the US chart. And to me, that no matter what's going on, like to me, the eclipse is the trigger of that in a lot of ways. And it's really just kind of showing us that everything about who we are, our foundations needs to get clear.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the change that needs to happen. And this is the catalyst. So, with this week, the Mars conjuncting Pluto, everything in Aquarius, the big pile up in Aquarius, there is a lot of things coming that are these matches, as as Anne said, the strikes, the things that are going to inflame us. I was watching a video earlier today that the Heritage Foundation just put out a thing for 2026 about their plan, and then they had a whole breakout plan about the family, how a good traditional family, which they define obviously as a man and a woman, but the man is superior to the woman. And basically, as you said, I don't want to be owned. They have this belief that women are owned by men. And if they had their way, it would go from the father to the husband when you're young and you're a baby making machine. Like that's what they think, it's very much the American Taliban. And so we have to be careful and on the lookout for that. People talk about birth control being this major um, empowerer for women, which it was. However,
Mhm.
the divorces didn't spike and start going up until the 80s. And you know why? Because that's when women could actually apply for credit cards and women could, have their own financial independence. They could have their own bank accounts. Right before that, it had to be co-signed by a man. And so financial independence for women is so important. And we cannot go back to that because they're going to try to strip away our rights because they don't want women to be able to break free.
Right.
And if the rise of divorces has a lot to do with women having autonomy and independence, and that is very Aquarian as well. So, that's something I want us all to keep in mind.
Right. And also, I encourage everybody go read The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. She wrote that book, and I read it back in 82, the Reagan years. And she said, all the stuff in this book has happened. This is nothing I made up. It's all happened. It's very easy. I'm an old IT girl, male, female, bank accounts. And so in that book, the bank accounts marked F. Of course, now we have other, but we'll probably put the others into the anyway, they got, oh, you're a female owned bank account. We're going to turn you off. And who's the man that's going to run you? And that was one of the things they did. And that's very easy to do. They know and now we have the data gathering with Palatine, and they're all a bunch of people that
Well,
want to.
Palantir, Peter Thiel, just so everyone knows, he has spoken openly about how it was a mistake to give women the vote.
Mhm, mhm,
And his company is the one that is gathering data on us. So
mhm,
I think everybody does need to wake up and see the seriousness.
mhm.
And I think there are people starting to see, but I don't think that people have been able to imagine
That
how
this can, yeah.
where it can go.
Mm.
And it's like, of course, that would never happen. But think about what our
It's
life
already
is like.
happening. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm,
Think about what our life is like versus 10 years ago. And so many of us, and myself included, were running around and we were being told we were being hysterical. That would never happen. You're being dramatic, like, all the things. And basically in 2016, everything that I had predicted to happen is happening now. Now, it didn't happen in those first 4 years because there was the astrology. I was not as tuned into the astrology as I am now, and there were checks. There are no checks right now, and so the only checks I think are those gods on Mount Olympus who are orchestrating the demise of all of this. So then we are going to see by summer really the new world and how we're all participating in it.
right.
So does that sound correct to you, Anne?
I would totally agree. Yeah. And the other part of it is Trump's a Gemini. So he does everything twice. So Trump won. Now we're on Trump two. Trump two is on steroids.
I
So
wish that Trump too was like in 2020 because then we'd be done with this nonsense. But no, that couldn't happen.
and it didn't happen. So Trump two is on steroids. So the pandemic that we had in one, we're going to get in two. The bank financial collapses we had in one, we're going to get in two. Dot coms are going to die. So if you got money in dot coms, take your money out. It's the Saturn Neptune. When Neptune was in Pisces, was the California gold rush. When it goes into Aries, financial markets are going to collapse. So whatever that is, be as conservative as you can. I was talking to somebody the other day. She says, "Oh no, I've been listening to you for a while. I'm all in gold and silver. And I'm doing really well." I'm like, well, good for you. So we know patterns repeat. We know there was a big financial collapse in 97, 98, right? It was, and there was all that year 2K stuff coming. And I was in IT back then, so I worked really hard to make sure the computers at Pepsi didn't crash. as did every IT person around the world. But this one, if we go off, if the Europe decides to take off the dollar, we're gone. They stop buying our bonds, we're gone.
Which
Because
is already happening, by
it's
the way.
already happening, by the way. Yeah. So that's
That's
called the
and our
economic wall.
debt.
Yeah.
That's also the Pluto in the second house, our
Yes.
debt.
Hmm.
Um,
Is
Yeah,
huge.
and Pluto coming to our south node in the second house. So everybody wake up. And I mean, here's the thing. I say wake up. There's very little you can do on some in some ways though.
Right.
Like to some degrees, this is just all gonna happen. Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, my money's still in my 401k, like most people's, because there's just not that much you can do because if the dollar is devalued, having your money in the dollar isn't going to make any sense. Gold and silver is way too high right now. So, there's kind of there's a lot of volatility, and what we go back to is grounding yourself in what your personal chart says during this
Right.
time. Now, I don't say this always, but this is a time of just really destined karmic, things are happening around the world, and it's not just in the US. And so the more that we can kind of the astrology is asking us to focus within, get right so we can help others.
Right.
And I think it's we have to learn what this new Aries journey is going to be. Here is the US chart with the Saturn Neptune that happens just days after the eclipse. You can see why we say that February is so dramatic, traumatic. It's, and would you say it's the biggest month of the year? Would you say it's the most consequential? What would you like categorize as
It's the setting up month, but in the summer, in July and August, we have Jupiter in fire, and he's triggering all these planets in air and fire. So the summer is going to be really very heated also, July and August.
all
So
right, so this
this
is
is
this
this
is
is the
the
setting
initiation.
of it, the initiation, yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to come up with a good title here. Okay,
Initiation,
good.
yeah. Hmm.
All right. So I know we're running a little long. So we've talked a lot about the Saturn Neptune, but let's talk about the Saturn Neptune in the US chart to kind of ground this a little bit for people about what they can expect in the political arena.
It's the next 38 years, right? So it's got an energy. The one that we had before was in the second house in 88, 89. And that was, of course, we were implementing, Reaganomics and trickle down economy. And Saturn is Saturn is the structure, Neptune is the vision. And our natal chart, Neptune is in Virgo and Saturn's in Libra. So Saturn's exalted, so it sounds like a good idea. But Neptune's in Virgo, which goes, well, answering to a retrograde Mercury. It sounded good on paper, but how did it work out for you? And so that whole, restructuring. So if you listen to people that talk about how the wealth has transferred over since 88, 89 in our culture based on Reaganomics, which is, of course, what was initiated. He was talking about it then, but when the Tiananmen Square and the Europe collapsed, we had that conjunction in our money house. So that's been a redistribution of wealth and equality, and got rid of a lot of workers' unions. Uranus is in the sixth house. Reagan fired the Patco people, the air traffic controllers, and basically the union busted. So we used to have 30% unions, 30% well-behaved corporations because they didn't want unions. So now we're down to, I think, I want to say, I haven't looked in a while, but I think we're down to 9% unions. So in New York right now, we're having a huge strike with the nurses because they negotiated a contract and they didn't live up to it. And now the nurses are out on strike. And that's the workers. So this may very well, kind of mark a time where we're going to have strikes coming in as part of people going, how can I live? How can I survive? I'm not making enough money. We also see Uranus in the sixth house of health, and we see Neptune at the top of the chart, and Uranus is trine to Neptune. So that's the whole ninth house is insurance. So that's all the insurance stuff coming into effect now for people in terms of their costs. And we see the moon in Aries with this Saturn Neptune conjunction. So that makes people a little fired up. So this Saturn Neptune is going to invite us to be a little fired, but it's also on the foundation of our country. And it says, what's the premise of why are you the United States? What's the structures that support that belief system? And do they still work for you anymore? With Mercury and Pisces, that's kind of the applehood, motherhood and apple pie. But the sun is now in Pisces. We're going towards another eclipse that happens on March 3rd, which is a full moon eclipse, where we really see is that what we're having, or, so new moon eclipse initiate. So that's the one that we have on the 17th. And then right behind it is the Saturn Neptune saying, okay, what's that structure? Now, if the health aspect that showing up in Donald Trump's chart happens, he's why a lot of people drink the Kool-Aid, right? And I don't know that Vance and Stephen Miller and Marco Rubio have the charisma to continue these plans without a lot of more Saturn, Neptune, and Aries. They're going to double, and they are doubling down. We see a lot of the doubling down, but I don't know that they have the charisma to get the people behind them. So I'm hopeful that people will go, yeah, no, I don't think so. And you can see, we see Uranus there. The nodes are squaring Uranus, which is our choices around how we behave. So the Uranus for the US chart is 8 Gemini. Remember, it was not discovered when they did the declaration, but it's squaring the nodes of fate on that eclipse that we have coming. This Saturn Neptune happens between 2 eclipses. So that makes it super powerful. And it's also on what we call the world point. Zero Aries is a cardinal point of taking action. And we have a very active moon there. And it's what we call a crescent moon, meaning it's starting to really take action. So, it's an action-oriented chart. And we do have Mars and Aquarius on the midheaven. You see the midheaven MC down there in the edge of the 2nd and 3rd. So it's a lot about communications and how we're connecting. So it'll be very interesting because Mars is quincunx to the natal Mars, or is trine to the US Mars in Gemini, and to the ascendant for the ascendant of the Saturn Neptune is in the 7th house of the public and our relationships to each other. So it's a nice chart. If you have to have a Saturn Neptune conjunction, it's active, it's oriented. Mars is detached and cool headed. It's got a little volatility because of the moon in there, but we're in volatile times, and it is matches. So matches light the way and help us see things. Just remember, not 3 on a match, or there can be a problem. So that, Daphne?
I think that Jupiter conjunct the natal US Sibley chart sun is really interesting because it's in Cancer. And that is one of the softening, like the softer parts of our
Yes.
chart.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jupiter is magnifying the empathy, the caretaking, the it's allowing people to remember the good parts of the US, the
Yep.
part that it's the Statue of Liberty. Give us your poor huddled masses yearning to be free. The
Mm-hmm.
Jupiter on that to me is saying like, don't forget this part of yourself because all this other stuff is happening. I that's to me that's my only hopeful saving grace piece of it. And also the self-introspection of the fact that the Saturn Neptune is on the descendant, that it's about to go in the 4th house. And as somebody who's having, my chart kind of mirrors the US chart in a lot of ways. I have 4 planets in Cancer in the 7th house and I'm Sag rising. And so I have a very similar kind of thing going on. And if you do your work, this can be so profound where you get to break free from the chains that bind you. And I think that that's what this is are we willing to look deep within to break the chains that have bound us, the things that we have been unwilling to look at? Um, that's what it is about for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow, we've covered a lot because there's a lot to cover.
Yeah, it is. And let's do one last one. Let's do Donald against the US chart.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to pull that up in real time here, but I can do that. I'm fancy. All right, hold on. Oh, actually, we did pull that up already, didn't
Hey, we
we?
did. I mentioned it before. Yeah.
Okay, so I am just gonna share my screen. La da da. You would think that I would be better at this by now.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. Is that not the right one?
Now that's the Saturn Neptune. So you want to swap Saturn Neptune out for Donald.
Okay, we are gonna close this. We are gonna say you. Now you guys get to see Astrotheros in action.
How fast that was. As if she said, I don't do this very well. Okay. So one of the things I want to say, because we're getting close to close, is what I do every night is I go to bed And Donald has a Saturn, Venus in is Venus Saturn. I have a Venus Saturn aspect too. So he wasn't loved, right? And I send him a little love when I go to bed. And I say, Donald, I'm sending you love. I know you don't really like it very much, but I'm going to send it to you. And I want to say thank you for all you did to show us what we needed to see. You've done a great job. And
Mhm.
anytime you want to go, mazel tov, have a good journey. So when we look at Donald's, and I say that every night when I go to bed. So we look at Donald's chart and you can see the sun and the North Node in Uranus is right on the Mars in Gemini for the US chart, which I
Okay.
talked to. I
So
opened when
got
I
the
said
US chart on the inside. We've got Donald on the outside. We've got Saturn on the Mercury.
mhm,
What was the thing that you just called
the
out?
sun, North Node in Uranus
Okay,
on the
right here
Mars
on the Mars.
in
Okay.
Gemini. So
Mhm.
his natal eclipse his birth is coming in on the United States Mars in Gemini, which is brother fighting brother. So that's stirring the pot that he's been doing for the last 10 years since he's been around, has been around. I'm going to bring you chaos because he's a Sun Uranus energy. I'm going to bring you chaos. Jupiter's up there and the Saturn in the 10th house, which is Saturn in Libra, is we're supposed to follow the laws, we're supposed to do it. And Donald's born with Jupiter on Saturn going, yeah, what's a law? And Chiron on the Saturn. I hate the law, but Jupiter trines his sun Uranus. It also trines the Mars in Gemini. Mars in Gemini is a weakened Mars. It's in the house of Libra. It's Libra's house, which is a weakening of the Mars. And his Saturn Neptune sits on the Mercury. So he's gone after people who speak the truth he doesn't like to hear. But also, he's here to wake up that Mars for us to see. And my assistant cried when he got elected the first time, like, how can people vote for him? I said, well, we're supposed to see something. He's supposed to awaken us, which he has done. Uranus is the great awakener. So he has awoken us and helped us see things. And then we look over there where the ascendant and the Mars are in the ninth house of how we incarnated, what we incarnated to do, and then what the declaration was incarnating for. So remember, it was written, people were enslaved, women didn't have the vote, women had no credibility. It was written for white guys that owned land.
Mhm.
And now Donald's saying the white guys are getting picked on. I'm like, what are you talking about? But that was I mean, and it's a lovely document. I totally love it. I love it. And it's our challenge vision, like,
It's an aspirational
it's an
document.
aspirational document. And Donald's chart stimulates, is that what you're really aspiring to? I don't think so. Let's have a fight. Sun Uranus on the Mars. So this is his purpose. And so when we thank him for showing us what we needed to see, that's where we get our power. We say, thank you very much. You showed us what we needed to see. Blessings upon you. May you, have a great journey somewhere else. Go bother somebody else. So we look at this chart as he is our awakener, and the leader of the country is our chart that we live with. So when we're living with Donald, he is our chart. We have his chart. So Saturn, Venus, we don't have any money. Jupiter trining Uranus, like those guys have it. And what the rules are changing constantly. Sun, it's whatever I say it is. Moon and Sag on the South Node. Do I have to tell you the truth or not? I don't really think I need to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you what I want you to believe. And so there's a nice energy that we all need to honor and bless. And you can see how his midheaven's in the sixth house. So this is where people thought he was going to take care of them. And, has he? Are you better off? So that's what I have to say about Donald on our chart, because he's here to awaken us and have us see what we hadn't seen before, that it really is a setup. And they want that power back. They want to make us not have bank accounts and not be able to vote, women not to vote. And back in the 60s, when the civil rights happened, Uranus and Pluto and Saturn all got together and said, let's change things for civil rights, for women's rights, for gay rights. Now, what's going to happen with the square, which is what we're finishing up, we're done with the square, which breaks us apart. Now we're going into the trine, and we have 5 trines with Uranus to Pluto. So the community gathering together to make change. And that is our vision. What is the change we want to make? And why is that? And,
And I think when
have to
the gods
honor that.
meet on Mount Olympus in the summer, it's going
Yes.
to be a very different story. They're going to say, okay, we've had our fun. We've exposed everything we need to expose. Now, what's going to happen? Like, then I think it's more the planning stages and, the undergoing I think it's a very different energy than this
It
month.
is.
And
Mhm.
this month, get right with yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Right. And so I'm going to have a person on in a couple weeks who did an energy clearing for me, a cord cutting with my father. And I think we all need a cord cutting with the narcissist in chief as well. So I think we all need this kind of like, we need to cut our energetic cords to things that bind us and hold us back. And so we're going to be talking about that because I think this is a time for liberation. Everything in the chart with the Aries, and it can be really challenging on your nervous system with Uranus going into Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. Like all of this can be really hard on your nervous system. The only antidote to that is that sort of getting right within yourself. And so that means cutting the cords of things that are, making you crazy and making you feel crazy. So we're going to do that. Anne's going to come back for March and she's going to talk about that other eclipse. And I'm just really grateful. Thank you for breaking this all down. Everybody hang in there. It's going to be a
And
big,
remember, we're going from earth and water to fire and air. It's very different energies, right? So if you're feeling very ungrounded, somebody posted on my Patreon, hold an ice cube because it grounds you. And
think
literally,
about, yeah. And
literally,
also,
it's to hold an ice cube. Like put your hands around an ice cube. And I'm like, what the symbolism that is. Hold an ice cube and send it a little love too. Because those guys, they didn't get any love either, you know?
no, and that's what and I've been learning so much. I can even like link some of the narcissism channels that I've been reading. Wow, so fascinating. And it doesn't end well for any of them. So just if you've had them in your life, if you've had narcissists in your life that have really like, taken you to the cleaners in their divorce or, whatever the thing is, it never ends well for them. So don't be tied to it any longer, right? Like, here's the thing, it's not going to end well in some ways for us. So
Let's not worry about it.
let's
Let's just know that's going to happen.
right.
And next. Yeah.
Yeah, and right. And then like know that by summer, the gods on Mount Olympus in the sky, whatever you want to visualize for yourself, they're going to have new marching orders. Things are going to kind of coalesce around something and it'll feel less chaotic.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean it's all going to be fixed.
No.
We've got many more years of this.
Mhm.
However, the chaos is going to calm down and we're going to work on strategies for staying sane in all of this and actually having a better life. Because to Anne's point, this is all designed, as I say, the universe is conspiring to help us, and there's a reason and a season for it all. That's what this is,
Right.
as, as confusing as that may feel. Okay, Anne, loved seeing you. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you next month. Thanks, Stargazers.
Bye, everybody.